This is a 4,000 gallon pool that I turned into a miniature pond stocked full of native fish. And even though all the fish are super healthy, the water quality has been on a slight decline, so today we're going to be doing everything in our power to get this water crystal clear again. And that includes adding in a brand new bog filter, as well as a whole bunch of critters to help keep this water clean. We'll also be taking some nets and fish traps out in the wild to catch some crazy critters. And along with all the new critters that we're going to add, we're going to give you an exclusive update on all the critters that are living in this pool pond right now, including some crazy underwater footage and some of the most insane feeding footage I've ever caught on this channel. If you love these kinds of videos, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps out a ton, but let's get right into the pool pond update. Now, it's been a good little while since I've done an update on the pool pond, and that's because winter has absolutely destroyed the pool pond. Well, not exactly destroyed, but it has made things very difficult. And before anybody comments that I shouldn't be feeding lizards to the pool pond, this one was already dead. I just threw it in the pool pond so it wasn't going to waste. But as I was saying before, I was a little bit concerned about what winter would do to the pool pond because of the cold weather coming, and what it's done is made the water super cloudy. Now, you can't quite see it in this clip just yet because this is at the very beginning of winter, but as the cold weather moved on, a lot of the plants in the pool pond died, which made a ton of algae blooms happen, which is terrible for the pool pond. But we'll go through all of that later as the video goes on. For right now, I'm just excited that these fish are still super hungry and have a great appetite, and feeding these red-spotted sunfish has got to be one of my favorite things. They love to play tug of war, but this is where one of our problems comes, which is hog. Hog is the bass that we added at the very beginning of the pool pond, and sadly, he's become a little bit of an issue. You see, nothing in this pool pond is as big as hog, and so he goes and steals a lot of food from the other fish, and a lot of times also eats any fish that we add into the pool pond. Anytime we add things like grass pike or shiners or pretty much any other fish, this guy immediately decimates their population and makes it impossible for them to survive long enough to breed. So in order to add new species to the pool pond, we have to get rid of hog. But what we're going to do is catch him out of this pool pond and release him into the backyard pond, while also at the same time finding a new bass to take his place. I know not everybody is going to like this, but sadly, if we want to see any new species in the pool pond, it has to happen. We've also been having a really bad algae problem, and that's something we have to solve before it's too late. You see, the cold weather has taken out a lot of the plants that were filtering out this water and keeping the algae from being able to bloom, and now that those plants are dead, there's nothing stopping this pond from becoming a cloudy nightmare. So today, we're going to also be building a brand new bog filter and doing our best to get this water super clear. But before we do that, we do need to go ahead and remove our bass hog because we're going to be adding pickerel back into the pool pond. But before we can do that, we've got to get rid of that bass that ate them all the last time. Now, by the time I finally decided to actually remove hog from the pool pond, I waited until the weather was a little bit too cold, and so every fish wanted to bite except for hog. But luckily, I had a lot of lures to use and all the time in the world, so we knew we would get him eventually. Last little lure I'm going to use for the day, it's a worm that has already caught the attention of pretty much every fish in the water, especially that dead gum green sunfish. But our bass, for whatever reason, oh, there he goes, here's a go, there we go, we got him. Okay, we finally got him. Oh my goodness, it took forever. Okay, so this is hog. We're gonna go ahead, hurry up, get him off the hook and bring him down to the pond. All right, there is our beautiful bass hog, and he's gonna live out the rest of his days in the backyard pond. And there he goes. He'll have plenty of fish to eat in here, and we won't have to worry about him eating all of our new species. And for starters, we're gonna release pickerel and a new bass into the pool pond. Now, in a previous video, we upgraded the bass and pickerel tank to a 40-gallon aquarium, but we had too many pickerel to use just in the aquarium, so we're gonna be releasing the pickerel as well as our bass Scar into the pool pond. All right, so here is Scar. We are gonna go ahead and release him into the pool pond now that we've taken hog out, and this is going to be his new home. And luckily, there's no fish big enough to eat him and no fish big enough to eat the pickerel, so we can finally add pickerel back into the pool pond. If you want to see me actually catching all these pickerel and bluegill and everything else, you'll have to check out that tank build. But we're going to go ahead and release all of these guys into their new home, which is the pool pond. All right, we're going to kind of count them. We got a bluegill and a pickerel, and nothing is going to eat them. It's a beautiful sight. Another beautiful pickerel right here. So that's 2 pickerel, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 7. And then there's number 8, 2 goggle eye. Well, 2 goggle eye. I think that's actually another goggle eye right there. We'll go ahead and release them out. Let me get this one down here that fell. Look how pretty the colors are on this one. It's got that purplish kind of tone to it. Beautiful. Now that we have all these new predators in the pool pond, it's time for us to get a lot more bait fish as well. So we went out and set a whole bunch of fish traps. Oh, looks like we got a couple of little baby bluegill of some kind. So those should be small enough to be good food for some of the fish in the pool pond. So we'll get those guys and let's check these other traps too. All right, looks like this one right here is empty, but we have one more to check. Oh, there we go. Lots more of those little baby bluegill. All right, well, these are not the minnows I was hoping to catch, but they're still a good size to feed to the pool pond, and we might even save one to put in our little pickerel and bass tank. Before I put any in the pool pond, I wanted to see if the size of pickerel that we had and the bass that we had would be big enough to eat something like this, and I was amazed to see that it wasn't the bass that ended up eating it, but actually one of the larger pickerel. And to my surprise, the pickerel was actually able to get it all the way down. Now, I am still working on some upgrades for this tank, so be on the lookout for that video coming soon, but now let's go ahead and go release all the rest of the fish into the pool pond. We got all of these little baby bluegill, which should serve as a good food source for the fish that are still in here. There we go. They all just went straight down to the bottom. And don't worry, the temperatures were the same. All those little fish food pellets, they'll get eaten up by the catfish tonight. But we still need a few more bait fish, so we're gonna go out and try to trap in a different spot. Okay, so some awesome news. All of this that was dried up in the last time I came out here, it's all filled back up with all the rain. So all these fish are safe and they're okay. And as you can see with all the disturbances, there's tons of bait fish. So we're gonna set a couple of fish traps here and then come back tonight and pick them up. We got our traps right here, baited up with a little bit of bread. We're gonna go ahead and throw them in the deepest pockets. We're gonna put this trap over here in the deeper spot, and we'll put the other trap on the other side in a little bit more of a shallow area. Now, hopefully these things don't get seen and taken. This string should sink, but we have a black string that we'll be able to grab from the bank that's hopefully not nearly as noticeable. For this other one, I think since there's so much movement right here, I'm gonna toss it right about there. Hopefully it sinks all the way. Okay, perfect, that should be fine. And this string should be somewhat hidden, and somebody would have to really pull over to the side of the road to see this. So hopefully that doesn't get stolen. All right, so we're gonna leave these for a few hours and come back after dark and then pick up these traps and maybe even net up a few bait fish if we see some. So I'll catch y'all in a few hours. All right, we are back out here later in the evening. It's about 10 o'clock p.m. So we were out for about 5 or 6 hours. We're gonna go ahead and pull these traps in and see if we got anything. Oh, I see stuff. Maybe that was just the bread. Nope, we got, looks like a couple of bluegill. All right, there's one. Okay, I think that's a goggle eye actually. And just a regular bluegill it looks like. These were a little bit too big for what I was looking for, so I hoped that the other trap would have something a little bit better. Upon first glance, I'm not really seeing anything. Oh, that was a big fish. Actually, that's a shiner right there. There's something else that just kicked up. Is that a bowfin? Just chilling right there. Sadly, you can't keep them if they're under a certain size. I think it's 18 inches, maybe 16 inches, something like that. So that's definitely going to be way too big, and they'd eat everything in the pool pond. But it's pretty crazy to see one of these guys pretty much just in a ditch that gets overflowed every now and then. But let's go ahead and check this trap. It would appear we have bluegill. And again, it is actually, oh yeah, two little bluegill, and that's all we got. All right, correction, it was actually 3. We've got a green sunfish, I believe. Ooh, he's kind of flapping all over the place. That's either a green sunfish or maybe even a long-eared sunfish. Well, he is not wanting to stand still now, is he? And then we got a goggle eye and then a regular bluegill, I think. But again, not what we're after. So we may have to come back out when the water gets low again and scoop them up manually. That right there is a genuine bowfin, otherwise known as a shoepick, grinnell, whole bunch of different names for this thing. But they are really cool fish. They're also super fun to catch on a rod and reel. I'm gonna see if I can scoop them up, but it's gonna be tough doing this with one hand. We might have got him. We might have got him. We got him. Oh, we got him. Oh, we actually got him. This right here is a prehistoric fish, and they actually do have teeth, so I want to be careful there. But this little thing is living just in this ditch, which is kind of crazy. But we're gonna go ahead and put him back in. Can't be taking him for the pool pond, unfortunately. But there he goes, back into the depths. I know a lot of you guys want me to put a bowfin into the pool pond, but the only way I can catch one small enough for the pool pond is if I catch it on private land where there's no fishing regulations. Anywhere that's public water or even connected to public water, they have to be a minimum of, I believe it's 18 inches to keep, which is way too big for the pool pond. I didn't end up finding any minnows in that ditch to catch, but I did find a whole bunch of maggots on my fish gut pile, and I brought them over to the pool pond to feed to all the bluegill, who absolutely tore them up. In my last pool pond video, several people said I should hang some meat above the pool pond and allow maggots to naturally fall into the water. However, my house is right next to the pool pond and I kind of don't want to be smelling rotten meat all the time. So maybe if I can find a way to contain the smell, I will do that. But if it's going to make my house a little bit stinky, I think I'd rather go collect the maggots by hand. But as I sat and fed these fish and could barely even see them in the water, I realized I have to find a way to filter this water better, which only means one thing: bringing back the old bog filter. All right, so we got our pump for our bog filter. So I put it in this old fish trap that was broken. That way it doesn't suck in any fish or any debris that's gonna clog up the pump. So this should work pretty good as a mesh guard. The hose is gonna come out and be in a bucket. Now I wasn't able to get the IBC tote for the bog filter, so maybe we'll upsize this eventually, but instead I got a big 40-gallon tote. This is our tub that we're gonna use. Right now, what I've got is, this is where the hose is gonna go. I've got a concrete block on this side, a concrete block on this side, and this big one weighing down some aquarium sponge. So it'll push the water through here. On top, we're gonna add some lava rock, some gravel, some sand, anything that we can. Fill it up as much as possible, and then fill it up with a layer of gravel on top of everything else to keep it weighed down. Then we're gonna cut a section out right here for the water to flow over and back into the pool pond. So it'll get sucked up from there, come up, go down here, through all the filter media, and then back out as crystal clear water, or at least that's what we're hoping will happen. Now I'm going to spare you the hour and a half that it took me to set everything up and haul all the materials, but basically I salvaged all the materials I could from the old bog filter, as well as some new materials like old shells. And once I had this thing filled up halfway with rocks, it was time to fill it up and test the flow. All right, so I just cut off the water. You can see there is a little bit of that stuff on the surface. It's getting mixed up. That'll eventually work its way out of the system. I am also gonna be putting some plants in here, but first I think I need to go ahead and cut this little notch right here on this side. That way it flows out nice and even. And the plan is gonna be basically to follow that and just cut right there with a little Sawzall, and that should give a perfect little spillover. All right, we've got it completed. And it has just enough clearance to get past that lip. And look at all the aeration that this thing's gonna provide. So I know a lot of you guys have been asking for me to make a little spillway. So this is a bog filter and a spillway at the same time. Now, once we get a big old like IBC tote or something, we might make a bigger one and put some bait fish in it like we did with the old bog filter. But for this one, we're only gonna put a few plants. So this right here is my front yard pond, and it stays crystal clear pretty much year round. So what I'm gonna do is take some of these plants down here and some of those plants and put them in the bog filter, because obviously they do a really good job of cleaning up the water. Eventually, I might go out in the springtime and buy new plants, but since we have all this cold weather right now, I just want to use things that are surviving right now that I know will also survive in the bog filter. Now, to get any of that hydrilla, I'm probably gonna have to get into the water, and I don't feel like doing that right now. So first, we're gonna put the plants we have in there, and we may in the future add some more hydrilla. Maybe even by the end of this video, we'll put some in the pool pond itself. We have put some in the past, and we'll do a little update of that here in a second. But first, let's bring this over to the bog filter and put it in. All right, there we go. Pretty much the same system we had for the old bog filter. It's just basically a little floaty right there, which would keep any of the floating plants from going in. And I don't think that those smaller plants that are gonna be sinking down will go over, but if they do, they shouldn't interrupt that flow, I don't think. So I think that'll be okay. All right, let's go ahead and add our plants in. Just gonna kind of drop them floating back here. Doesn't seem to be causing any problems just yet. I'm gonna keep an eye on it for the first 3 or 4 days very closely just to make sure. But as of right now, things are looking good. This pump should work at 2,300 gallons per hour. So in theory, after 2 hours, all of this water could be cycled through. Now it's probably gonna take a lot longer than that, and it's gonna take even longer than that to actually clear up. But we should be seeing some results hopefully by tomorrow. And that should tell us if this thing is working or if it's just not big enough. I'm gonna give it a full 24 hours. So this is what it looks like right now with all the suspended water particles. You can't get underwater footage. It's just way too cloudy. You can see one of the bluegill sitting right there. So this is what it looks like now. We're gonna come back and check it in 24 hours to see if this bog filter has actually made a difference. Okay, we got a lot more of these maggots. I'm gonna go ahead and see. There's a little bit of fat and grease. That's why you see that little bit of stuff on the surface. Don't worry, it's nothing toxic. It's like chicken fat, if I'm not mistaken. But it looks like these bluegill absolutely love all these maggots, which is kind of funny because I actually have all the fish scraps in a big pile from all my fishing trips when I'm done filleting fish. And these maggots have just been chewing up on all those fish. So this right here is the circle of life. And as I sat here feeding the fish and I was about to go into the house, I realized I didn't have a fail-safe. Okay, so I was just about to go inside and call it a day. And then I thought to myself, what if this fails and that pump ends up sucking all of the water out and spilling it out and draining the pool pond, and all these fish die because of it? So because I was nervous, I went ahead and put a cinder block right there. And I'm gonna put this pump on top of that cinder block. So should this fail and drain all the water, it'll still be filled up about halfway. That way the fish will be able to survive. It won't be ideal, but it will be better than the entire thing draining. So just in case, as an emergency precaution, we're gonna have this thing sitting right there on that cinder block, which I guess also does add a little bit of habitat for the fish, but that's not the reason we put it in there. We put it in there so this pump doesn't accidentally drain the entire pond should something go wrong. All right, there we go. It's on top of a cinder block. It's not exactly pretty. I might end up putting some plants around here to kind of cover this bit of an eyesore right here. But just in case something goes off, that's gonna be my manual kill switch. Basically, the pump will end up burning out, which would be very expensive and not good, but my fish would survive. So now I feel comfortable just in case something does go wrong. I have a little bit of a fail safe. I also have those solar aerators. So even if the water's really low, those solar aerators will still keep the water aerated. But I'm gonna check back in first thing in the morning. I'm probably gonna also check later tonight just because I'm paranoid when I add something new to the pool pond and something like that that could drain this entire pool pond. I just gotta keep an eye on it just in case. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead, head into the house and rest for a little while and come back out in a couple hours. All right, well, it's been about 15 hours and the water's looking a lot better, I will say. I can see pretty good down and you can see the fish very clearly. Now, the bottom is still a little bit cloudy, so we're gonna give it a little while longer, but everything's worked really well. The water level hasn't dropped and we can see all the way to the bottom, barely. So it's a big improvement from what we had before. I mean, look how clearly you can see the fish now. It's still not the best. Oh, look, there's a pickerel right there. Oh, he just shot off. But anyways, it's still not the best, but it's a lot better than it was before. And it's only been under a day. So it may even take less than a week. But however long it's gonna take, we wanna make sure this water is crystal clear. But after a couple days of waiting for this thing to clear up the water, I just ended up being disappointed. It started to leak and it wasn't doing its full job. Although it looks like the filter itself is catching a lot of the stuff, it has not made that much of a difference in the water clarity. So again, you can't even really see the tops of this right here, the cinder block. And there's still a ton of suspended particles, which I know with the glare is kind of hard to see, but just take my word for it, it is not good. I don't know if you can see down there a little bit, but there's a ton of suspended particles. At this point, I realized there was just too much junk in this water and I needed to drain it all the way down and refill it with some fresh water. Every week or so, I do add in a lot of new fresh water and I get a lot of rain that helps fill us up, but it's time for us to do a 75% water change. Now, we've had a warm couple of days, but in 2 days, it's gonna be 28 degrees. So I'm gonna try and get all of this done today. That way I'm not having to be out here in 28-degree weather, getting wet and trying to get this stuff figured out. All right, we are 45 minutes in and it's almost drained past the halfway point, or it might be right past the halfway point. Yeah, it's about right there. So we are up to the halfway point. Now we can finally start to see the bottom pretty clearly, but even at half capacity, we're not seeing perfectly clear. So that means this water is very cloudy. The goal is now to stir up the water as much as possible and try to drain out as many of those particles. That way, when we refill it, it has a lot more clean water and a lot less of these nutrients and fish waste and everything else that's been clouding up this water. Okay, this is gonna be the first time walking in the pool pond in, oh my gosh, probably over 2 months. Oh, that water's cold. What I'm gonna be doing is intentionally stirring this water up, getting it nice and cloudy. That way when that filter is sucking out all of this water, it's gonna make sure to get a lot of that nasty stuff too. Here, look at all that junk. So that is dead algae, that is fish waste, all kinds of nasty stuff, and we want all of that out. The sand is gonna naturally settle back down, but all of this stuff, it's got to go. The next change I want to make while the water is this low is cutting down some of these plants because they're not surviving the winter, and all that's going to do is add more nastiness to the pool pond. All right, we have made a lot of changes. So the water's at the level now where I'm comfortable moving stuff around. Yes, it is still very cloudy. We're going to work on that. But what I'm doing now is moving around some of the stuff that was already in here that had fallen down. So for example, this stuff, this stick right here had fallen in the water. Everything kind of crumbled down. So I set it back up. The driftwood island was all waterlogged, so it started to sink. So I ended up repurposing it and using it right here with the main driftwood pile. And I think it's gonna look super cool underwater. So that's gonna add a lot of structure both down at the root system and above here in the trunk area. I also rearranged all of this stuff right here. All of this driftwood had fallen down to the side and sunk. So I repositioned it, and we're adding in a ton of new plants. So for example, right here, I planted in that lily pad pot a whole bunch of hydrilla. I've got a lot more to plant here, and we have some fresh, much more lively water hyacinth, and we're gonna put that floating in the end as well. I'll probably just leave it in here, see where it settles as it floats, and then we'll figure out where to put it after that. I've also rearranged a few things. Now over here, I cut all of the unhealthy plants, so we only have a few little shoots right here of those cattails. On the other side we have one, but I cut down all of the dead ones and kind of trimmed the roots a little bit so that they'd stay closer to the pot, and there was a lot of junk stuck in those roots, so I took that out, trimmed them up, gave them a nice makeover, and then in here all of this stuff was starting to die off, and there was like one good leaf for 50 dead ones, so I cut it all back down to the ground, and I put some lava rock as some extra structure for the fish we're gonna add in the next videos and as we progress, because we want to add some shrimp, we want to add crawfish, a lot of other stuff like that, but they need more hidey holes, so that's what we're working on as well. And I've got one more pot that I need to plant some hydrilla in, and then I'm going to start cleaning this all up. All along this side, I came with a little scraper and scraped up the bulk of it. I probably removed about 5 pounds of like algae muck, which was disgusting. But I left some low for critters to eat on, and I left some of the stuff high that was a little bit dried out by now. But anyways, that's where we're at. We're gonna continue cleaning this thing up and hopefully have a much better, lot prettier pool pond here in a couple hours. After about an hour or two of filling up water and pumping water out, it's time for us to finally refill the pool pond. We're gonna add some filtered well water, so there's no chemicals added, nothing else. You don't have to worry about that. The pH is balanced, everything else. I've checked all of my well water and it seems perfectly fine. So we're gonna go ahead and start adding that water back in and letting this thing fill back up. But before we do, let me give you a quick little look around. We have our rock pile right here with our driftwood sticking out. We've got our oyster pile. We've got the hydrilla. We've got water hyacinth. This is what the wood is going to look like underwater with all that extra added driftwood. Over here is something I added new. So this is going to be for shrimp or other tiny crustaceans. They can live in that lava rock. There's plenty of open spaces, and they'll be safe from predators. And also planted a little bit of the hydrilla there as well. And I think that's pretty much all that we added that's new. Pretty much everything else that we did was just resetting stuff back up to the way it's supposed to be. We did add a little bit of driftwood right here since it had sunk. But, oh, look, there's the gar right there. So all the fish seem to be doing really good. I haven't found any dead fish yet. I'm pretty sure the amphiuma is hiding in there, but I haven't seen him. But other than that, everything seems so far to be okay. So anyways, I think it's okay to add water back, and hopefully it'll be a lot clearer. Okay, we got that plugged back up, and I imagine we're probably gonna be running this water like all day, probably even into the night, because we've got to fill this thing back up with about 3,500 gallons. As I started filling the water up, I instantly noticed a major improvement, and this was a good sign for what was to come. Okay, it's been 24 hours, and the pool pond is finally filled back up. It looks like we do still have a little bit of those suspended particles in the water, but we're hoping that the pump filtering through this stuff might help a little bit. The fish, as you can see down there, maybe, are doing really well, and everything seems to be good so far. I will say it looks a lot weirder without those plants sticking up, but hopefully some of those lily pads and things will come back in the springtime. If not, we'll definitely add a lot more of those later. We finally got the water clear. Oh, look, the gar's out in the daytime. Oh, this has been a huge relief. It has been so long since I've been able to see all the way to the bottom very clearly, and even see fish like this super clear. So we're finally gonna be able to get some awesome underwater footage, and if the fish are comfortable enough, we're gonna see if we can get them to eat as well. All right, the water has stayed clear for a couple of days, but we do have one major problem, and that is that I left my underwater rig up in Missouri. So I'm gonna have to wait a couple days for a new underwater case to come in so I can get some awesome underwater footage, but hopefully this will hold clear for a few days. So far, it's been really good. You can see straight to the bottom. Oh, the Amphiuma is actually down there in the bottom. If you can't see that right there, it's pretty clear actually. So yeah, good, perfect. So that's the Amphiuma down there. He must be using this new cinder block as a home. I guess he's not a huge fan of my renovations on this right here, but that's okay. He's got a new spot to hang out in. I've seen a few of the pickerel. They like to stay up around this area normally, but right now they're staying a little bit deeper. Let me see if I can spot one. Oh, there's one right there. So the pickerel are pretty good. They love hanging out around the cover. So that's pretty much the only places that I find them, is hanging around those heavy pieces of vegetation. And after a couple of days of waiting for a new underwater case to come in, I finally got to see some underwater footage for the first time in about 2 months. The bog filter ended up being a bust. It just wasn't able to put enough volume through the filter media. It got clogged up and bad, and it just didn't really work out. We definitely are going to need a much bigger bog filter, but running the pump that I've already been running has helped clean up the water a little bit, and I'm looking at possibly getting some flocculants and things like that that'll be safe for the fish, but will help get these suspended particles out. I think that once springtime comes around, the water's going to clear up a ton, because then plants will actually be able to grow in here without just dying like they have been this winter. But the one thing that did surprise me was how hardy all these fish were. I did not lose a single fish, not a single bluegill, not a single minnow, nothing. I never saw a single dead fish from this water change, and even though I kind of expected to have at least 1 or 2 that died, not a single one did. It was also super cool to see just how much that water hyacinth was already flourishing, and I'm hoping that this alone is able to save the pool pond. The only problem is you gotta watch it to make sure it doesn't completely take over, but on the upside, it provides a lot of oxygen for the water, plenty of cover for the fish, and it deprives algae of the nutrients it needs, making the water clearer in the process. One thing that did change from all the commotion was the Amphiuma Leviathan. He decided to start using these really skinny cinder blocks as his new home instead of the crate. I'm not sure if that happened because of me draining the water or moving the driftwood, but for whatever reason, this is his new favorite spot to hang out. It looks like all the rest of the cubbies are empty, but we're going to work on getting some critters to fill them up here in a little bit. I also wanted to see what the driftwood looked like with all the new additions. I had to gather all the driftwood from around the pool pond and put it in here because it just kept sinking. I also really like this makeshift shrimp structure, and the second we add grass shrimp, I'm sure they're going to love this area. I was shocked to find that a lot of the small bluegill are still alive and they haven't been eaten yet, which is good because that means we have a more long-standing form of food for the bigger fish. And another thing that shocked me was that our catfish that's usually hanging out in here wasn't there. I did end up deciding on the name Chubbs for him because he's a fat little catfish, but he wasn't in this spot, and when I went and checked the crate, he wasn't there either, which is really strange because he's usually in one or the other, but this made me question if maybe he didn't survive. I made sure to sweep around the entire pool pond, every single spot that I could think of, trying to find this catfish, but I had zero luck. Even the middle driftwood pile seemed to be a ghost town, except for one little pickerel that I saw swimming off on the left. Speaking of pickerel, these guys are super elusive and hard to find underwater because they're very camera shy, which is a complete opposite of my other fish. And if you can see down there, that's also our bass Scar, who is also still a little bit shy. But you guys know that none of the other fish are shy at all, and these red-spotted sunfish love to sit there and stare at me when I'm recording. Luckily, the colder weather has made it where they don't attack my hands the second I get in the water, but they do still look at me, and I know they're contemplating it. Now, one of the channel favorites in this pool pond is our gargoyle. He's a spotted gar, and if you can see right here, he's got the prettiest pattern on him. All right, so one thing that you guys absolutely loved that I ended up having to take out because it was made out of cedar wood was the cricket island. So what we're gonna do today, this is not the permanent cricket island. Honestly, they're all probably gonna get eaten very quickly, but we got a whole bunch of crickets. We're gonna put them on the island and get some awesome slow-mo footage of these fish picking them off the sides. All right, first let's see. See if the fish are gonna go after them. Oh yeah, the fish are hungry. 3, 2, 1. The colder weather has made these fish pretty lazy, but whenever there's a whole bunch of commotion on the surface, these guys go nuts no matter what the temperature is. Now, this isn't my favorite cricket island, and I know that you guys are like a big fan of the original cricket island. I'm gonna have to find a way to kind of bridge the gap between this very unnatural crate and something a little bit more natural, but something that's gonna stay floating. Because the biggest problem we had with the driftwood island is that once that driftwood got soaked with water, it just sunk to the bottom and it didn't stay floating anymore. So we need to find a way to keep floating and also to make it look a little bit more natural, because I kind of want this pond to look more like a pond rather than a pool. I'm thinking about trying to figure out a way to put some floaties along with some driftwood or something like that, but if you guys have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. I'm all ears. This is just going to be the temporary cricket island. I know it doesn't float very well. It's not very natural. We are working on something for that in the springtime, but for now, I think this will be plenty of space for these crickets. I love to give my fish a variety in their diet. I don't like giving them just one thing. So if there's anything that you guys would like to see me feed to the fish in the pool pond, please let me know in the comments down below. And as long as I can get it in my area, I'll definitely go for it. I think personally, of all the things I've seen my fish eat, crickets are definitely my favorite, along with, I think, night crawlers by hand, just because it's cool to play tug of war with the fish. All right, looks like all the fish ate their fill. There are some that are no longer alive. There are some that are actually climbing onto these plants. So if some of them escape out of the pool, that's okay. They still got a lot of food in here. As you can see, there's several of these fish. I don't know if the bass actually ate one or not, but it didn't look like I saw him coming up to the surface too much. Maybe he'll go down there and eat some that sink down to the bottom. But a lot of the other fish had a field day with this. I know this is an idea that we really have been trying to figure out how to do it. I was gonna turn that driftwood island into a cricket island to feed fish, but all the driftwood started to sink. So if you have any ideas, I know somebody said I need to find like a buoy or some kind of like flotation device and put that as the island. So if you have ideas of a way to make that look a little bit more natural, then let me know. But as cool as it is to see these guys eating crickets, there's one thing I really want to see eat, but to see that, we're gonna have to come out at night. And no, it's not the grass pike, it's actually Leviathan, our Amphiuma. He usually only comes out at night. In the daytime, he stays sitting in that little crevice. Here he is chilling at the surface. I'm probably gonna spook him a little bit by talking and shining a light on him, but it seems like he likes this crate right here. I might leave it in here for a little while. I have a cricket on a stick. I'm gonna see if I can feed this guy somewhat by hand. He tried to eat it. He took a bite. I think I shook it a little too much. I sat here for several minutes trying to get him to eat off the stick, but it wasn't until I put the camera down that he finally decided to bite. Okay, I say that, and now I've got him eating out of my hand. I literally just had to put the camera down, and he would do it. Oh my gosh, let me try again. All right, I literally sat there trying to feed him for a solid 5 minutes. Could not get him to budge. I turned the camera off for a few seconds, and he starts biting, like instantly. At this point, I wasn't sure if he didn't like me or if he just didn't like crickets, so I went out and caught a little bluegill, put it on a stick, and tried to feed him. But when he didn't eat that, I realized it was me he doesn't like. Look at that. Water scorpion eating a cricket out here right above the Amphiuma. But we can't get the Amphiuma to eat for some reason. But while we're out here at night, we might as well go out to the backyard pond to try and catch some crawfish to put into the pool pond. Oh, he's trying to pinch me. He's trying to pinch me. No, sir. All right, look at that guy. Pretty cool. He actually looks like he's got some blue in that little hinge right there. But that is our first crawfish of the night. We're probably not going to catch a ton of them right now. I am planning in the spring to add lots more of these guys, but we are trying to catch as many as we can tonight. All right, there we go. Crawfish number 1 in the bucket. I see a frog. Ah, he got away from me. I was gonna try and scoop him up. I don't see any other crawfish at the moment, but we're gonna keep on looking. Okay, this one's a little bit harder to see. He's gonna be harder to scoop. Oh, we got him. There we go. Little tiny crawfish. We're gonna keep him in the net and keep going, see if we can catch a couple more. Dang it. I reached down and hit record and scared off the frog again. I was about to try and scoop him up. Man, 0 for 2 on the frogs, but 2 for 2 on the crawfish, so that's good. Oh, I saw one. I see him. He's down here. Got him. There we go. Another one of those little brown ones. He was buried up underneath that grass. If he hadn't twitched, I wouldn't have seen him. Last place I can think of is down here in the old wildlife pond that I really haven't messed with too much, but I'm hoping we can catch at least a couple crawfish. Probably not big ones, but we might get a couple small ones. Oh, it looks like at least 2. Oh, that one's got eggs. Sweet. All right, let's get these guys unloaded. Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't think she's gonna let me. There we go. This crawfish is about to have lots of babies, so we want to make sure we put that one in the pool pond. We want to make sure these guys are extra safe once they actually get in the pool pond, so we're going to release them very carefully. But this right here is a different type of crawfish. You can tell because those claws are a little bit different. And it looks like we caught some teeny tiny crawfish as well, so we'll put them in there too. So far, that is the teeny tiniest crawfish I think I've ever caught. There we go. Teeny tiny ones. All right, we have quite a few crawfish to go ahead and release into the pool pond. All right, I think this is gonna give them the best chance because there's a lot of rocks they can hide in. I already put a little bit of water in here, that way these tiny ones don't get stuck in the bucket, but we're gonna go ahead and release these guys all the way down. I wanna make sure, see there were a couple little tiny ones. I'll make sure they all get down in there. And we're gonna add a lot more of these guys here in a couple of months once the weather warms up a lot more. I don't know exactly where they went. They've gotta be somewhere down there. Oh, I see one, that little spot in the middle. No, that's a leaf. Okay, I don't know where they went. Oh, there's one. All right, so that right there is one of the crawfish hanging out at the bottom. They should be able to get in those little crevices and not get messed with. And those itty bitty ones, I don't think anything in here is gonna see them until they get a little bit bigger. And hopefully they'll be able to spawn in here, reproduce, and in the springtime, we'll add tons more. But for now, that's all we could catch, so that's all we're gonna go with. Hey, Leviathan, what's going on, dude? This is probably my favorite animal to just observe in the pool pond. The way he swims is just super cool. I'm trying to come out here and see if I can see, oh, catfish. Okay, perfect. I hadn't seen any footage of the catfish underwater. Oh my gosh, he's so cool. But anyways, I was out here looking to see if the catfish were still in here. I hadn't seen them since I drained and refilled the pool pond. But I did see one shoot off just a second ago. It looks like, no, that's a green sunfish. I'm not sure where he went. Probably over there where that amphima is. Okay, I don't know if you can see right there, but that is the head of the catfish. That's where he settled in. So Chubbs, I think that's what we ended up deciding to call him, is Chubbs. Chubbs, the catfish, is very much alive and well and settled down there at the bottom. Now, one of the more underrated critters in the pool pond that we seem to have a lot of are these water scorpions. We've got a ton of these guys. They live all around on these little floating plants, and I didn't realize until I took out some of those plants just how many we have. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's at least 8 just right here. So there's a healthy population of those. Yes, some of those do get eaten by the fish, but it seems like they live a pretty comfortable life out here, and they eat a lot of those tiny water bugs and some minnows. But anyways, guys, that's where we're gonna stop for today. Now, next episode of the Pool Pond series, we've got some awesome fish that we're gonna add, as well as some cleanup critters, and you're not gonna wanna miss that. We're actually gonna try and find some saltwater fish that will also be able to survive in freshwater. And I already have a hit list of about 5 or 6 different species that we wanna add. It's a lot that we're gonna plan on adding, but it's gonna be really cool, so make sure you stick around. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do it. That way you don't miss out on the next episode. And as always, guys, Jesus loves you, I love you, and y'all have a great day. Today's scripture suggestion is Matthew 5:16, which says, "In the same way, let your light shine before people so they can see the good things you do and praise your Father who is in heaven." Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. It helps the channel out a ton. Make sure you like, subscribe, and all that extra stuff. This year, we have some crazy stuff planned, including a major project in April. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of that. As always, guys, Jesus loves you, I love you, and have a great year.